So the next topic for discussion is how would you um, basically categorize organizational culture, right? So um, essentially, we want to explore how to characterize such various corporations and their cultures. So actually, there are several ways of doing that, and we will cover several aspects of it. The first thing we will go over are the three levels of organizational culture. Then we will go over how employees learn culture and how it's transmitted through symbols and stories, heroes, rites and rituals, and organizational socialization. And then we will be going over corporate cultures and different types of corporate cultures. We have four different categories here: clan, adhocracy, market, and hierarchy cultures. And we will look at examples of such corporate cultures. Then we will look at the importance of culture, and finally, we'll look at how a person and organization may fit better together, and how you may um, look at interview questions to find out how well you fit within the organization, right? And this would reflect your ability to thrive within an organization. So firstly, we'll go over three levels of organizational culture. Um, Essentially, the every organization has a culture which is present at three different levels, right? Each level is characterized by its outward visibility and resistance to change, and each level influences another level. So we have first the observable artifacts, which is like the most visible manifestation of your culture. Then we have the espoused values, which are rather explicitly stated values and norms that companies put out in statements and put them on websites, and the CEOs send out letters proclaiming those values and things like that. And then there are the basic assumptions. These are the underlying core values that are not advertised, right? Um, to go into more details, observable artifacts basically are the most visible, and they are the easiest elements of a culture to influence, right? And changing artifacts can start with something as simple as changing a dress code or replacing a wall decoration with another, right? An example in the corporate world would be Goldman Sachs requiring a suit and tie for its investment bankers and enforcing a dress code that encouraged employees towards excellence. John Whitehead, as we will see in subsequent um, slides and lectures, was an early employee who encountered such exhortation, or rather admonishment, when he walked into an office wearing a linen suit in the summer over a woolen suit, and was subsequently admonished to go home and change out of your pajamas. Young man. Let us move to the next level of organizational culture, which is the espoused values and the explicitly stated values. Um, this is the second level um, of an organization's culture. It is like an iceberg, really, which is deeper underneath the surface than it is above the surface. Now, these are basically enacted values that and norms that are actually exhibited in the organization, and they are put forth as the code of ethics. Incidentally, John Whitehead, the person in the earlier slide who was admonished for his dress code, came up with some of the earliest values for Goldman Sachs, and they have now become part of the business principles of Goldman Sachs. Let's move on to the next level of organization culture, which is the basic values, right? The basic underlying core values and assumptions. A substantial portion of an organization's culture exists at such a deep level that it is nearly impossible to grasp or articulate. You usually learn that through osmosis or through interacting with people. These are the basic assumptions which represent the unobservable yet core values of an organization and its culture, and that are often taken for granted, right? For example, at Goldman Sachs, for a long time, there was an unobservable yet core value, which was we won't be supporting hostile takeovers, right? Along with you have to be available for the client 24/7. Now, you won't find it in any kind of like written manual at Goldman Sachs, but if you work there, or even for a day or something, you would likely encounter this particular basic assumption, right? Now, how do employers or employees rather learn culture, and how do employers impart these cultures, right? How do they teach these cultural values? So basically, employees may learn culture through many different ways, and some of them are through symbology, through stories, through heroes, rites and rituals, and through socialization, right? Which we just discussed earlier in the earlier slide, where you can pick up information just by being around people, right? Now, uh, uh, let's move to how employees may learn about a corporate culture by looking at a symbol, right? A symbol is an object or action that represents an idea or quality. Symbols are artifacts used to convey an organization's most important values. For example, Nike has the swoosh symbol, right? It is a simplification of an angel's wings, as you see here, specifically the Greek goddess of victory. It is a shape that people associate with positivity, right? Basically, wearing Nike shoes gives you wings and things of that sort. In other organizations like the Christian Church, the cross is central to the story of self-sacrifice that Christianity has made central to its faith, right? So it is said that the cross was first seen in the sky by a Christian king who then exhorted his soldiers to sacrifice their lives for a greater cause like Jesus Christ. And the cross, for example, teaches self-sacrifice more than any other symbol. It is a vehicle through which people learn their culture. And most of our um, uh, like uh, like honors involve giving crosses or pieces of metal with a band upon them, like the flying cross here and the iron cross, which basically has stories attached with it, and heroes and like soldiers who fought bravely and selflessly for their country and for higher values and for God, and then they are given these medals, right? And these medals communicate the cultural values of a nation and a civilization, right? Then there are stories, right? We transmit culture through stories. A story is a narrative based on true events, which is, in this case, true events, which is repeated and sometimes embellished upon to emphasize a particular value. It can also, some people can also use mythology, but in corporate environment, usually when you narrate stories, they're usually true. And stories are basically oral histories that are told and retold by members about incidents in the organization's history. For example, employees of the church learn about the story of Jesus, and the worshippers learn about the crucifixion and his life throughout the years. And basically, through those stories on repeat, like every Easter, every Christmas, they basically learn about the values of that organization or the church, right? And what does it value? It values, self-sacrifice and looking out for one another, and compassion for the sinner and things of that sort, right? Now, then of course there are heroes within an organization. Usually, corporations will have, they'll have like the CEOs or founders as heroes that they'll idolize. In the case of the Christian church, a hero is basically their lead prophet, which is Jesus Christ, seen here being rather pretty and rescuing little sheep who have gone astray, and basically he's bringing them back to the flock because he is the good shepherd, or so is claimed. Now, when it comes to employees learning culture, you can also learn cultures through rites and rituals. Now, rites and rituals are these activities and ceremonies, planned and unplanned, that celebrate important occasions and accomplishments in the organization's life. Rituals basically transform ordinary moments into meaningful and symbolic practices. Now, every year the church holds Christmas, which narrates the birth of Christ. The pageantry and the gift giving illustrates a time of celebrating the birth of a savior and light, and the gift giving is about the generosity of God. Now, another example would be the company called Warby Parker, the eyeglass manufacturers. Now, their employees, for example, are given a copy of Dharma Bums, written by Jack Kerouac, I believe, because the name of the firm derives from two of its characters, and you would probably expect a lot of cultural values within Jack Kerouac's Dharma Bums encapsulated within that book. And yeah, I would say people within corporations and organizations have different rites and rituals which they use to impart certain values, right? Now, when it comes to organizational socialization, it is basically defined as the process by which people learn these values, norms, and required behaviors that permit them to participate as members of an organization, right? So organizational socialization occurs in three phases: before you're hired, when you're first taken on, and then when you have been employed for a short time and are adjusting to the job. For example, at Goldman Sachs, the hiring process is protracted and involved unless you're from a good school and family, in which case it is not that protracted. It's more of an informal chat. Now, once hired, new hires in the best departments are assigned mentors who coach them about Goldman Sachs' internal culture, and basically that's how they learn the values within that organization. And this happens at other investment banks and other corporations as well. Um, Now, let's look at four types of um, organizational cultures that we may look at. Rather, these four types can be encapsulated within the competing values framework, and they provide a practical way to understand and measure and change organizational culture. So, the first type is clan autocracy. It's an employee-focused culture valuing flexibility and not stability. It's basically family-oriented businesses would fall under that. Adhocracy culture is basically a risk-taking culture valuing flexibility over everything else, and it's mostly startups would have something like that. Market cultures are competitive, or rather hyper-competitive cultures valuing profits over employee satisfaction. You would say that some of the blue chip or high cap corporations that are highly profitable in certain segments and industries could be defined as corporations that have a market culture. And then there's a hierarchy culture, a structured culture that values stability and effectiveness, that is accomplishing your goals. And you would classify your basically your government organizations, including the armed forces, as such a particular corporation that values hierarchy and falls under the hierarchy culture. So let's look at some examples of an organizational culture, right? Basically, like clan culture. Uh, has an internal focus and values flexibility rather than stability and control, right? Such organizations want their employees to have a strong sense of identification with and commitment with the organization, as well as a feeling of family, like, right? And you would see that in fashion houses like Prada, Giorgio Armani, and very early Goldman Sachs that was basically established by Mr. Goldman and Mr. Sachs. And clan cultures usually use collaboration to accomplish their goal. And companies with clan culture are likely to devote considerable resources to training and developing their employees, and they view customers as collaborative partners, right? So early Goldman Sachs, for example, was a fairly family-owned enterprise. They stressed collaboration and teamwork and cohesion and people development and commitment and morale. And then it became more of like a slightly open organization, but it still had a very strong set of core values, very definitive culture. And then recently it became a public organization, and all of that has changed. But Early Goldman Sachs would be an example of clan culture. When it comes to adhocracy, basically an adhocracy culture has external focus and values flexibility. They're instead of just merely collaborating and morale and commitment, they're focusing on creativity, adaptability, and agility, and innovation and growth and cutting edge output, right? Basically, employees in adhocracy cultures are encouraged to take risks and experiment with new ways of getting things done. This culture is well suited for startup companies. Most startup companies have that. Early Apple had that. Early Google has that. Most startup companies in the tech sector would fall under adhocracy cultures, right? Which is they take a lot of risk and they value flexibility, right? Um, then comes the market culture, right? A competitive culture valuing profits uh, more than they value employee satisfaction, right? So companies with market culture leverage employees' competitive drives to make money, achieve goals, and gain market share for the organization. In market cultures, customers' productivity and winning takes precedence over employee development and satisfaction. Although, there are some companies that like Goldman Sachs that are both occupy both market and clan culture, right? As we saw earlier. Now, employees in market cultures are expected to work hard and proactively react and deliver quality work on time. Those who deliver results are rewarded. Now, early Apple under Steve Jobs, and then Apple under a reinvigorated and reinstated Steve Jobs would be an example of such a market culture oriented organization. Tesla would be one of them, and you can see evidence of that with Mr. Musk advocating for corporate culture at Twitter, for example, that is more committed and more competitive and more um, productive and aligned with profitability and market share and goal achievement. So the next type of organization is the hierarchy culture that prevails within an organization. And companies with this kind of culture, they implement various control mechanisms, right, that help the company maintain a certain level of performance. And they have very capable processes, consistency, and measurement of those processes. And they're extremely efficient, timely, and value smooth functioning. Um, the U.S. Air Force or any government or aviation or healthcare or any other corporation like that would qualify as a corporation that embraces a hierarchy culture. So a quick overview of the competing values framework. We looked at a clan culture. It has sort of a family feel, very collaborative, very people oriented. A lot of like commitment and people development and morale are important. Then we have adhocracy, which is like startups, right? Innovation, growth, creativity, and adaptability and agility, right? Then we have market cultures, which is highly competitive, very productive, all about profitability and goal achievement and market share. And corporations like Goldman Sachs would be good examples of that. And then we have the corporations that have hierarchy cultures, which is like they're all about control and capable processes and consistency in process controls and measurements, efficiency, timeliness, and smooth functioning. An example would be the U.S. Air Force. Next, we'll look at the importance of culture, and essentially we will look at how culture impacts various aspects within an organization, from overall leadership to high performance work practices, to employee outcomes, innovation, operational outcomes, customer outcomes, financial outcomes, etc. Right? So first of all, we will look at overall leadership, right? Um, we have observed at least that clan and adhocracy cultures are more strongly related to desirable leadership behaviors than market and hierarchy cultures. Now, one explanation for this phenomenon that we have observed is this. Now, employees prefer to have leadership that allows flexibility and discretion, um, that clan and adhocracy basically provide. And employees are not huge fans of uh, the, the directive style of leadership, you know, and which they, the directive style of leadership, which is associated with fostering stability and control in hierarchy and in hierarchy and market cultures. Now, of course, that's just theorizing. Um, because quite a few people actually love a hierarchy and market culture and thrive and do quite well in these cultures as well, right? So now the next factor uh, is high performance work practice. What is high performance work practice? It basically involves employee abilities and motivation and opportunities. Abilities like selection and training. It focuses on motivation like compensation and career development, and employee opportunities, which is it focuses on employee involvement and information sharing, right? Now, market culture has the strongest relationship with high performance work activities, and that's primarily because such techniques include teamwork, functional flexibility, empowerment, employee development, appraisal, counseling, and performance related pay, which basically aligns very much so with market culture and its compensation of its employees and focus on profitability and goal achievement and things of that sort. Now, when it comes to employee outcomes, all four cultures seem to be related to this. The extent to which employees feel happy, committed, and supported by the organization and engage in important work behaviors depends on the culture, and it seems that all seem to have an equivalent or similar impact. When it comes to innovation and outcomes related to innovative products, clan, adhocracy, and market cultures, these three, right? They're more strongly related to innovation than hierarchy cultures. Now, this clan, adhocracy, and market, right? They're more aligned with innovation because they have an explicit because hierarchy has an explicit focus on control and stability, whereas these cultures, they have a focus on basically empowering employees and being creative and basically customer focus and productivity and enhancing competitiveness and things like that. So which allows them to be more innovative. And various control structures, they actually are very careful about the hierarchy cultures, for example. They're very careful about innovation, right? Because it takes them a while to embrace innovative processes, and that can be a good thing, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a good thing either. As long as innovation is good and it has its place, right? Now, when it comes to operational outcomes, we notice that typically and predictably, autocracy, market, and hierarchy cultures are more strongly related to operational outcomes than clan cultures, right? Why is that? Clan cultures, unfortunately, are explicitly focused on the quality of their employees rather than um, you know, on operational outcomes such as quality of their products or services, right? So they're um, very focused on who they let into the organization, and they might not be overly concerned about basically um, the quality of their products, and if if the if the worker or the employee does not fit in with their clan, right? So that's probably one of the reasons why their operational outcomes are not aligned with the other three cultures, right? Now, clan, when it comes to customer outcomes, uh, clan and market cultures are more strongly related to customer outcomes, customer satisfaction, and market share than autocracy and hierarchy cultures. Let's see why and what we learned in the competing values framework, right? You would think that autocracy or a startups culture, um, right here and here and here, you would think that these guys would be more into customer outcomes since they are so outward focused with their innovation and creativity. But it is possible that autocracy cultures or startups or a tech culture is mostly focused on the fun, new, and innovative widget they're creating for the customer rather than on the actual customer, right? So basically, they like the process, they like the innovation, they like the products they're creating, but not necessarily care that deeply about the customer, right? That has been rectified in some organizations, but that seems to be an observed trend in the cultures of you know autocrats or um, uh, it is possible that also that in clan cultures, customers gain feelings of satisfaction from their collaborative, customized exchanges with peoples and products in the organization. So basically, previously we saw that maybe the clan cultures might not be so focused on their products. Well, this is Prada is not a very good example of that because Prada's products are very superior and just exemplary. Same thing goes with Armani and all the other corporations because they're very focused on their products, but they're also focused on customized experiences for the customer, right? They provide like interactive environments and a very caring environment and a customized exchange with people, which leads to better customer outcomes, right? And of course, market culture is all about customer focus, right? Which is like they want profitability, so they're going to be as nice and as wonderful to the customers as possible, right? Now, when it comes to financial outcomes, there's a relationship between all the culture types and financial outcomes, but it is weak across the board. And basically, we have observed that high performance work practices had more to do with financial outcomes than culture, apparently. I personally disagree with that. I feel that high performance work practices have a lot to do with culture. Actually, so culture drives high performance work practices, and that drives your financial outcomes, right? So typically, such techniques would include high performance work practices. Again, would include something like team working, functional flexibility, empowerment, employee development, appraisal, and counseling, and performance related pay, right? Overall, companies with market cultures tend to have more positive organizational uh, more positive organizational outcomes, right? Um, so let's move on to the next part, which is a personal organization fit. Um, when you are uh, looking for a job or something, it would be nice to make a list of your personal values, strengths, and weaknesses, and try to be honest, as this is the best way to accurately gauge fit. And then spend some time learning about the organization you plan to interview with by, talking with current employees and researching the company online. Then making a list of the organization's values, strengths, and weaknesses, and then compare your list with their list, right? And see if it's a good fit. Thank you for listening, and I hope that this was informative. You can also look at the PDF document if you wish. Thanks.